Hi, everybody. Welcome to Quarantine Parenting. Thanks for being here. My name is Dr. Courtney Pegram, and I am the creator of this scrappy channel, and I'm super excited to be here with you. Today, I have a recurring guest that we love to have on our channel, a good friend, and an incredible educator. So I want to reintroduce Mrs. Leon and kind of talk with you and us together. We're going to go through the different stages of grief. But before we do that, Mrs. Leon, can you just give us a brief of who you are so we can all remember and kind of get a better understanding of your background?
Yes, definitely. So I am a social emotional learning teacher at a CPS school near my home. I teach second, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade social emotional learning. So I have about 700 students, 25 different classes that I teach on a weekly basis. And for going on 8 years now, I've taught kindergarten, pre-K, third grade, fifth grade, and now the grades that I just mentioned to you. So that's just a little bit about me and what I'm doing right now. And in this, we've decided to, kind of catch up bi-weekly and talk about different topics so that we can support our students and our families that are watching us at home.
Well, thank you. So as I mentioned, today we're going to talk about the different stages of grief. The reason is as we're moving into stage 3 and stage 4, there's a ton of uncertainty. We don't know where we're standing. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Things might change. So with that comes a lot of loss, confusion, and fear. So we thought if we could break down the stages of grief, we could come up with strategies for educators and parents to use as we transition into reintegration.
Yes.
So as I talk about some of the things that in the past, we've talked a lot about emotions. I'm going to walk through the different stages, and then I'd love for you to share some insights you've had. So we have anger, isolation, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So what are your thoughts? What have you been hearing when it comes to some of these stages of grief? What is coming up?
For me, on my end, the stage that I think I'm hearing most from my students and their responses is anger. It can definitely be tied into depression, but I didn't say things like I get so angry. I hit my pillow. I hit myself. Students that are saying, "Oh, well, I don't talk to anybody about my anger or." I keep it to myself, and I just it. I don't know what that means. They deal with it. So I know that I'm just hearing students dealing with a lot of anger right now.
Yeah. So, and I've heard that too. I've seen it in my own home. I've seen it in myself. So, what can we do to kind of process this anger and find some resolutions to let it out? What are some ideas you have?
Yeah. So anger, which it's kind of a tough one, I think, because you know, anger is definitely an emotion that you can feel. I know for me, when I get angry, it kind of feels like a surge of like energy, kind of comes from my toes and goes up to my head. It's like, whoa, and that's when there's like the raising of the voice, or somebody might stomp their feet or slam a cabinet because it's just like this, it's just kind of come out. So I think with anger, we have to allow our children, our students, the space to let their anger out, right? So I would say anger, naturally for us as parents and adults, like I said, if we're raising our voice or we're doing something that's in a loud manner, we cannot expect our children to not respond in that way, because if we're ticked off or we're angry, they might just play off of that emotion. So I think team them a little grace to understand that all these emotions are on edge right now. They're easily on edge. Our child is screaming. They don't normally do that, or they are stomping away and this is out of character, or they are slamming a door and this is not normal behavior, because I know we've discussed like what is going on in our homes right now. There's just so much emotion that they're processing. They have to let it out. They're not outside running. They're not outside playing. They're not doing their activities that they're doing. So this emotion has a lot of energy. And so we can try to encourage them to, hey, why don't, I know you're really upset about this. Why don't we put some music on? Why don't we just dance a little bit? Or why don't you go to the room and listen to your favorite artist? Or why don't we draw or scribble for like the younger ones? They can scribble it, right? They need to squeeze something. I had a student that told me they hit their pillow, which is probably a better to hit than a wall or a sibling. So finding some way that they can channel that anger. Some students, I know for my daughter, it's a lot of tears, a lot of crying that's attached to anger. So letting our students and our children cry, and not shutting that down and saying, all right, that's enough of, I'm crying, all you're doing is this and that. I know that's happened in my house where it's like, you know what, are we going to start with the crying again? And I have to remind myself that I'm not the only one. She is too. So, she might have some tears that are coming out because of her anger. So I think some time to process that anger, whether it be like, you know what, I think you need to take a cool shower, or I think you need to go take a bath, listen to some music. Why don't you just channel that anger somewhere else? Those are some of the ways that I can think of that students, or we can encourage our students and children to process their anger.
Yeah, I mean, what you said was so filled with strategies and ideas that I feel like it's things we can use and we're forgetting about it because we're so like cooped up and we have so much going on. So I love what you said. So when I'm feeling anger, I need to get it out. Our children need to get it out. A way to do that is taking a shower, exercising, even like drawing, scribbling, journaling. There has to be a process to let it out and not push it down. So as parents, being more aware too of like, hey, I should keep my cool just a little. They're trying to express to me what's going on.
Yeah. And they may not know how to process that anger like we as adults should know and do know how to process that anger. We as adults know, I need to step away from the situation before I say something or do something that I'm going to regret. And they don't know how to do that yet. That thing. And for my 4-year-old, taught him, my husband told him, I'm going to teach you what men do when they get upset. He's like, okay. He's crying. He was really upset. So we go for a walk. So we literally let him walk in our dining room, and he just walked in circles around the dining room table. So the next time he said, I need to do what a man does. And he just started walking around the dining room table, and we encouraged him. Then he started laughing. We said, that's great. You remembered, what you're supposed to do with that anger. Because we all have it from 3 to 2 years old, all the way up to us as adults.
Right. And it's great to model the behavior because we want to be like our parents, right? So our children, so my daughter does exactly what I do when I get angry. So to give them strategies, but also modeling them, like, this is what I do. This is what you can do. And like, I think repetition is super important too in these processes, because if you're angry, sometimes everything goes out the window, right? So
Oh, yeah. And remembering that, maybe some of the behavior that they're expressing is something we have modeled to them, in a negative way. So now we have to figure out like, okay, that's learned behavior, or they're just not knowing how to process, and this is how they are trying to process. And then having to maybe come to our children and say, you were doing XYZ. And I know you learned that from me. And just seeing it, I'm recognizing that's and I'm sorry that I showed you that. I shouldn't be, acting that way. And I'm sorry I showed you that that's how we respond, with anger. Maybe even sitting down and, how would you want mommy to respond when she's angry? How would you want daddy to respond when they're angry? So that we can start working on responding that way as a family when we're angry, and coming up with a family that we can handle anger together.
I love that. That's brilliant. So the idea is asking how we want to respond as a family to anger. What are some, so then actually the kids would be cued in, oh, mom's getting angry because this is a strategy she's using, and having that conversation. So you're empowering and you're holding people accountable in your family. So I love that. That's really important to do. So we've covered anger. Now, what would you do for like the next stage? And just by the way, they're not in certain order because we've decided that during quarantine, it's more circular. You can go through all the stages in one day, like you're going through them in segments. So moving on to the next, isolation. And we kind of put isolation and denial together. So what are some things that you've seen and what can we do when we hit that phase?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were handed isolation right off the bat with quarantine. I think it was like, everybody stay home. Stay home, stay away from your families, stay away from your friends, stay away from your classmates, your teachers, your regular routine. So we were kind of given over to isolation. And so I think that's where a lot of these other behaviors are stemming from. And so with isolation, I think what we're doing right now, and a lot of our parents are doing, and what our students are doing on a daily basis by logging on to their classrooms, is a way that they can fight the isolation, the feelings of isolation, connecting some way. Obviously, we're not face to face, we're not I should say like in front of each other physically. There's a screen, right? But we're able to talk to somebody else outside of our home, to at least not sit in front of a TV and, just be empty that nothing is going on, that's challenging us mentally, right? Getting our thinking circles going at all. And now we're talking, FaceTiming, group chats, things like that. What else do we have written down? We can send messages to our friends, right? Kids love sending DMs and inboxes and things like that. It's keeping them entertained, kind of distracting them from the isolation, them from kind of what's going on in front of them at the moment.
Yeah, so I love that. So sending like emails, texts, DMs to your friends, like encouraging that as adults, but also as kids too, the FaceTime. So having those Zoom calls, those group calls are really important, and not giving up, because we're usually at the end, that's kind of when it's harder because you're like, I'm so done with this. But I think continuing it is important.
I think you had mentioned to me about your daughter having a YouTube. You want to tell them about that?
Yeah. So as a bullying teacher and a cyberbullying expert, I get my daughter a YouTube channel. So what I did though, parents, I want you to hear about this, is I created a private channel. No one can find her. No videos are exposed. But since she's an only child and I'm at home most of the day, she's very bored. I'm not really good at playing. So she has her iPad and she creates these videos. And on the videos, she talks to an invisible audience. And they're her friends. And they love her. She's got a gazillion subscribers. They like the videos. But the reality is no one's seeing them. But she just feels surrounded by people. And she watches the videos. She talks about them. We plan them out. Really helps for isolation. So I encourage that one.
Using her imagination.
Yeah.
Right? Going on up there. My daughter's got a few of those too. And they're really cute to look back on as the years go on. Like, look, when you were 8, you were toothless. You're so cute.
Oh, this is day 867 of quarantine, and we have this video. This was cute.
Yes.
So that's good. So I feel like we have some good strategies for isolation. And then, so now what about like denial? Like I had said, we talked prior, like I was in denial in the beginning. And I feel like some of my friends and some of my community now are in denial. So what are some strategies that we can put in our home to address the denial?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always kind of a facts-based person. So I would suggest, here are the facts. Like, this is what is going on in our country. This is what is going on in the world. This is what has happened to so and so's family. Oh, remember so and so? This is what's happened. For me, for example, my grandfather passed away a couple of weeks ago from COVID. So for me, it's like, do you remember what happened to Grandpa? Okay, so we don't want that to happen here. It was their great grandfather and my grandfather, but we don't want to bring that home. So this is out there. This is happening. We're facing this. You go to the store with mom and dad when we reopen, things are going to be different. Shelves are going to be empty. are going to be walking around with masks, and some families have already seen that children have already been out and some haven't. Mine haven't. So just the facts, like, this is what you go out to the stores, in front of the stores, they're going to see them. Just reminding them, yes, this is happening. This has happened. It's happening, and it will continue to happen until we have a solution.
I mean, I could really relate to what you're saying. Is really bringing it back to what is facts. You didn't put any opinion in there. It was really, this is what's happening. The other thing that I love that you shared is going so children can visualize. You remember your great grandfather. Like, it's their truth. This happened to them. They can relate to that. It's not like what they saw on the news, or it's something so close to home. And I think really to address denials, you got to go as close as home as possible so you can feel it. It's real to you. And mhm. And I think I really want to also say, like, I'm really sorry for your loss too. I think it's important to address that, especially as we're all losing things throughout this. But when you lose a loved one,
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So then, okay, denial. So then we're like, and as we're going through this, people, we are also feeling the negativity. This is not fun to process. Okay. So next one would be bargaining. So what do we do with bargaining?
Bargaining. I think we've all heard, but my friends, they get to go outside. So and so is at the store, and so and so's having a party, and so's, going here and there. Why can't I? Can't I please? And reestablish your family values in this time, and saying, well, these are our family rules right now, because facts. This is what our family has to do now to keep us safe. This is what our family has decided, and we're not going to downplay so and so or so and so's family, because that's their decision. That's what they feel comfortable with. But as a family, mommy and daddy have talked, or mommy's decided, or daddy's decided, or caregiver has decided, grandma, grandpa, whoever is taking care. We've decided this is what we're doing here. Yeah, but if I do this, if I go outside with my mask, hey, right? Well, they say you should wear your mask in public, but maybe we're not ready for you to go out and play with kids yet. So we've decided that's not yet. But it's open. It's open. We can all go out. I understand, but our family has decided, and just stating the facts, and establishing those rules and those boundaries, because we're all really what society should look like right now.
Yeah, I like your approach. I think that, like, resonated for me is like really being strict on your boundaries. What are the family rules? What are the expectations? And being repetitive about that and explaining the why. And I love how you said, like, let's not judge others. We're not here to judge. This is just how we're going to operate. Because we all know this is an individualistic experience, and we have to address that.
Yes, so good. It's individual. And I think, as you said earlier, so many people have lost, and we don't know what each family has lost. Some people lost their homes, jobs, family members. Students have lost graduation, proms, just sports.
Yeah, so there's a ton of loss that has happened. I think when we think about loss too, it's important to talk about it, process it, and then move on. And not just, I'm not dismissing that. It's not like it takes a long time, but I love how you shared, like, it's, you need to address all the things that have been lost, not just the loved ones, not just, financial, but there's so much, and we're all accepting it differently. Which then brings me to the next one, like acceptance. Like, so that's the final phase. But I wanted to come here before we talked about depression, because have you found that we jump around, like, oh, I accept, and then I'm like, oh, I'm back in denial. I accept, now I'm bargaining. I accept. So what are some things we can do so that as we bounce around through the stages of grief, that we can, when we see acceptance, it's like some strategies to help us understand that it's okay to accept in this moment and not be okay in the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think we all have gone through that. I think because we're here in our homes, And in our homes, life is as normal. We're interacting with each other. We're doing things like we normally do. We're not wearing a mask in our house with each other. So it's like things are okay, things are all right. And then you go out and you're like, reality check, like, well, okay, it's not okay, right? Things are bad right now, um, and kind of, excuse me, kind of realizing that this is emotional. This is like, one news channel says this, one news channel, a friend says this, a friend says that. It's like this is hard to keep up with. So of course, automatically your emotions are going to follow in that, in that trail. Definitely felt the bounce back and forth between, well, maybe it's okay if so and so comes over and said, wait, hold on. No, it's not. It's not okay, especially if, we've been isolated and so-and-so's been working. Not okay, you gotta be careful. So definitely have bounced back and forth with that.
So I think that like it's really important, and I like it's and like I like what you said. It's okay to bounce back, and that's normal, right? You're gonna go from acceptance to all these different stages, and the idea is like addressing that it's okay to not be okay. And I love the way you framed it because we're always like, what does that even mean? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
It
I oh
is.
sorry.
No, it is okay to not be okay. I think that is such an important thing for others to hear, for parents to hear. We're not okay. We're not okay. We're not okay as a country and our state. We're not okay. Our homes are not okay. It's not normal. And I think we all need to hear, like, it's all right. We're in this together. It's not okay, but it's okay that you're not okay because we're all not okay together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's addressing, it's again like going back to like your truth, right?
Mhm.
Stating the facts. This isn't okay. And that's a form of acceptance.
Yep.
Now, the reason I wanted, not that I like to end on a negative note, but I wanted to end with depression itself is I think, and I think that you think that what's going to happen, and with the research I've been doing, is depression is not just going to be after phase 4 gone. It's going to be a long process of depressive thoughts, increase in like suicide ideation. All these things are going to start happening because it's not just the loss that we're feeling in this moment, is things are still going to be so uncertain, fearful. So when we're feeling depressed, what are some strategies we can use in our home? And even thinking like in the future, what are some things we can put in place to protect our families?
Mhm. Um, I think even just talking about it first and foremost, when we notice that our children or even one of our family members are feeling a certain way. I woke up this morning and I told my husband, like, I don't feel okay today. Yesterday I was fine, ton of energy. This morning I woke up and I said, I do not feel okay today. And I went to make coffee. And while I was making my coffee, I just broke down thinking of my grandfather. And it was like, oh, okay, that's why I was not feeling okay. That's what needed the emotion that needed to come out. That's why it felt off. So I told my husband, I'm feeling really sad, really emotional today, really sensitive. And he was able to tell the children when I was crying, mommy's feeling this way this morning because of grandpa. So I think first addressing what is depression and what can it look like in the home. Mommy's crying, it's okay. She's sad. Why is she sad? Where is that coming from? So first talking about it, recognizing it, and then figuring out how the individual in our family needs to process that emotion. So mommy just needed some time to cry, but maybe the other family member just wants to be left alone for a little bit. Maybe they like to sit outside, maybe they like to sit in silence, maybe they like to draw, and maybe we can encourage them, hey, why don't you take some time, and much like with some of the things that we do for anger, why don't you go sit and listen to some of your favorite music? Why don't you find a distractor, right? Help them find something that they can do to get their mind off of the depression, that sadness. um, uh, and it's the same things that we said for anger, helping them find something that they can do, even coloring, drawing. Maybe they're like have a lot of students that tell me they like to paint and they're crafty, or they want to try a new recipe. Maybe in the moment saying, hey, I know you've been wanting to bake some cookies, we haven't gotten around to it. Why don't we put something in the cart for mommy to pick up later, and we can make, or daddy to pick up later, and we can do this or we can do that, and try to create some excitement for them, something that they can look forward to get their mind off of what they're thinking on in that moment, that's having them head down a rabbit trail. And then finding a way to process depression, let that emotion out. So do they need to talk? Do they need to journal about it? Or do they want to just, like I said, sit and think for a little bit? Okay, I think you've sat with this for a little bit. Now, is there something you want to do? Is there something you look forward to doing right now? Or maybe let's do this. So I would say those are the ways that we could handle that.
Yeah, I really like how you put that together. So let me recap so that we have these clear strategies. First, we need to talk about it. So I think that example about you not being okay this morning was so important to like address, because we've been talking about, but we didn't pinpoint. We need to cry, and it's okay to cry. It's important. It releases. It's a form of release. So by you like crying and your husband being like, it's okay. Let mom have her moment, right? This is how she's processing it, and this is how we support her. So I really wanted to kind of hone on the fact that it is okay to cry, and we need to release that. That's a form of like letting it out. Also, talking about it. So being clear on what's going on, how you're feeling. And then also, I think that it's really important to, in the way we process things. So how are we processing? So for the ideas you gave for processing was like journaling, going outside, just like the similar things to anger, even a distraction, right? So
Mhm.
let's make cookies. Let's go make cookies. So get the stuff for the cookies. I'll go get the cookies. Finding activities that the children enjoy. So
Mhm.
the distraction, even though they'll still feel sad or depressed,
Mhm.
or at least like moving the needle just a little bit, like
Yeah,
instead of just letting them sit in that.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Good. So, and then I think that we kind of touched upon this, but also like if your child or you need, like you're feeling depressed, you have suicide ideation, there's therapists, there
Yes.
is group therapy, and everything is being provided virtually right now. So in the space of your own home, you can do telehealth, and I think that is super critical, because now more than ever we need it. So I think we've been giving strategies, but when you need it, reach out.
Yes, yes, definitely. Telehealth is important. Also, speaking or reaching out to your school to get your school counselor's information. You don't know what to do with these emotions, or you don't know what to do with the depression. You don't know how to get your child help. Your school counselor should have the resource for you.
Right. So there's therapists, telehealth, there's the school social workers. There's
Mhm.
also like, I know we talked about it in before we went on to the interview, but creating like a sphere. So having a sphere of support so your children know these are the people I can reach out to, because often in the moment we don't think about it and we feel alone, and we're
Right.
never alone.
That's right. That's right. Especially when we are not alone.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So I think like it's really like going, it's okay to not be okay, and that is a part of acceptance. And we are not alone, another part of acceptance.
Yes.
So as we're like closing off and we like went through the stages of grief, so I can even feel like the heaviness of this topic. What are some ideas or insight that came up that I might not have mentioned?
Uh, I think we've touched on everything. I think we talked about family values. We talked about reestablishing our boundaries. We talked about how we can take care of anger. We talked about all the loss we're facing in different ways. We talked about how to handle um, what it looks like when our children are bargaining and how it is okay to reestablish those family values when we are bargaining or see that going on. We talked about depression, how we can handle that. What does acceptance look like? And is it around, in this circle of stages of grief. Is that okay? And I think the one thing maybe we could just reiterate is that maybe we don't realize that maybe this video was an epiphany for somebody. Stages of grief. This is what my family's going through right now. We don't even know it. Maybe understanding that, oh, these are some of the ways that my child is reacting, and maybe they're processing grief and loss, some sort of loss in their, maybe it's because they're not at school anymore and they don't even know that this is what they're processing, loss of being around their family and friends. And we can kind of say, I'm sorry, I know things are different, but that's different than saying, honey, do you know that you've lost something? And try to explain that to a younger child, other than, I'm sorry you're not in school with your friends right now. I know this is hard. I know you're not around this and that, and things are different. But saying, you've actually lost something. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now, the emotions that come with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I love how you just tied it all back, and it made sense to like addressing, almost putting yourself in your child's shoes, right? So we've been on
Yeah.
this earth for a lot many years, and our children is, we have to comprehend their level of knowledge and cognitive processing through this whole pandemic. I
Yeah.
mean, we're like, we can't even figure it out. So imagine them.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we put pressure on them, and we don't remember or know that they are facing pressures that we're not.
Yeah. So the pressure is real, and it's really important to address it and be clear on how something. I like what you said too. You said it throughout, like being honest, open, and apologizing when things aren't working out. So those are such great strategies, and I love how that we kind of explored the different stages of grief. And to recap just clearly, there's not a certain order you're going through this. So you can be bargaining one day, accepting the other day, feeling depressed the following, and it's like a roller coaster of emotions. And that's what's the most critical to understand, is this is an individualistic experience, and it's about understanding where you are in this moment, and it's okay, and accepting that your friends, family members, and others will make different choices. So as we're closing off, I just wanted to thank Ms. Leon for being with us. And then we will kind of put together some strategies. I have an idea. We're going to do a strategy tips sheet. We're both really great at that, and we love that. So we'll make sure that's accessible on our social media sites, on the YouTube channel, and I'll put it on my website. So that is it for us. So thank you so much for joining us, and please like this video and subscribe. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.